This is a review that the atheist community of Austin recently received. Jesus loves you. God's speech is how he communicates his kingship to the world. We also see this in the covenants the Lord made with his people. God reveals himself. God reveals himself to Abraham, and a promise-backed relationship is begun. Genesis 12, 1-3. First he spoke to the stars, then makes promises with them. Genesis 15, 4-5. Believe in God. God is the reason you are here. Now, there are a couple of things I want to say about this. And the first is that you shouldn't leave a 1-star review for anybody just because you disagree with them. That's just dishonest, blatantly so. God would be very, very disappointed with you. So to redress the balance of this very naughty person, I think those of you who have received benefit for the services of the ACA should leave a 5-star review as soon as you finish listening to this show. In addition, and I will never get bored of saying this, preaching is the least likely thing you can do to convince me that God exists. In fact, preaching suggests to me that you have nothing compelling to present at all. If you genuinely want me to believe God exists, call the show, present evidence or a compelling argument, and I will have no choice but to believe. Let's have a conversation where mutual exploration leaves me compelled to accept God's existence. If you want me to accept God, stop preaching and call the show, because the show is starting now. Welcome. It is March 24th, 2024. I'm your host, Richard Gilliver, and joining me today is the incomprehensible Phoebe Rose. Hello, Phoebe.
I've never been called incomprehensible before. That's a new one even for me. I've been called incongruous. I've been called superlative. I've been told that they've run out of superlative. Incomprehensible is a term I have never had used to me. I suppose, when I do go into legalese and stuff, I can, start not just thinking like a lawyer, but talking like a lawyer. But incomprehensible. It was almost as incomprehensible as that 1-star review you just read out.
It was indeed almost as incomprehensible of me broadcasting from your basement.
Oh, it's incredible. It's a wonderful basement, isn't it? It's a wonderful basement.
Talk Heathen is a product of the atheist community of Austin, a 501c3 non-profit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Talk Heathen is a live call-in show, and we have open lines. So if you want to call us, you can do so on 512-991-9242 or from your computer at tiny.cc/callth. But first, every week we go through the Talk Heathen to Me segment where we get to the questions of the week. Last week, we asked you, what is God's idea of a perfect woman? And here are our top 3 answers. Number 3, C03244. God's idea of the perfect woman. A married woman who hasn't consummated their wedding yet. Phoebe, what do you think about that one?
Depends what you mean by consummated in this case.
Get a lawyer on the show, expect a
lawyer's answer. I mean, but yeah. Also, what does the word "yet" mean? What if you're just building up to it? Is that the moment before where or is it just as you finished? Is it on the way? Is this God foreplay?
Just for the benefit of the viewers, me and Phoebe are going to have tremendous fun during this for sure, whether you do or not. Number 2 is X1704. God's perfect woman listens to a talking snake affecting the downfall of his entire creation, precisely according to his plan. That's pretty accurate, Phoebe.
I've worked out where the main plot point of the entire Harry Potter series is, because he talks to snakes and it's the downfall of the main character. It's taken directly from the Bible.
That's it. It would not be like that particular author to take things from other places at all, would it? Not shouldn't have probably said that. Laura Gerald 6187 responding to the show last week says, "Great show, guys." Sophia, yeah, love the hair. Jimmy, love your shirt. You both look great. In answer to the question, God's perfect woman, Barbie. Perfect looks, can't speak, storable. I have to admit, when I read that one last week, that actually made me laugh laugh out loud when I saw that one. And
now here's the real question. Now here's the thing missing. At the end, holds her value.
I'm not going to be able to concentrate all this week. The prompt of the week for next week is complete the sentence. It was fucked up when God blank. Enter your best answer below the video in the comments, and next week we will reveal the top 3 answers. But let me get your answer. Phoebe, complete the sentence. It was fucked up when God blank.
Covered up an affair.
Just that?
Well, Mary and Joseph, he covered up that affair because, clearly Mary, was having an affair. Because if Joseph wasn't the father, it's an affair.
Yeah, it's quite a strange affair as well.
I know.
I'm sending down part of me, which isn't me, to impregnate you on my behalf, to have my son, which is also your son, but not your husband's son. It gets quite complicated, that old Bible thing sometimes.
Godgate, isn't it?
We are looking forward to your answers for that question next week.
Richard, what's yours? What's your answer?
I've not thought of an answer. You don't put me on the spot like that. I mean, come on, complete the sentence. It was fucked up when God blank. That there is so much to choose from. I think possibly my go-to for this is requested. Requested, no less. And this is in the Bible, Christians. Please go and look it up in number 31. Requested that virgin girls be taken as spoils of war. But not that. Oh, no, not just that. God wasn't content with requesting virgin girls be taken as spoils of war and divvied up amongst his troops. He requested his own portion of those virgin girls to be delivered to his priests on his behalf. I think that is the most fucked up thing that God did.
Is that coveting thy neighbour's ass?
I don't know which part of them he wanted to cover, so I couldn't.
You see, the big problem here is that, God covered up an affair. Thou shalt not commit adultery. God, sending all these virgins, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's ass. There's 2 of the 10 commandments that have been broken. So that's 20% off the bat that have just been broken. Thou shalt not commit murder. God committed murder all the way through. That's 30%.
So this week, Richard's just going to sit back and let Phoebe host the show. I am very excited to see what our audience come up next week. Put your answers down below in the comments and not in the side chat, and we will read your answers out next week. Of course, it's not just the Richard and Phoebe show. It's not just about us. We have a great team behind us who get all of this going, who do all the hard work, from everybody from the show note writers to the time stampers to the fan group volunteers, right up to the producers and everybody else who's involved. Some of those people are right here now. So let's go to the crew cam and look at those lovely, lovely people who make this show happen. Look at that lovely lot. God, there's some of my favorite people are in there, not Greg, but the rest of them, some of my favorite people are in there. And, they are the ones that make this all happen. They're the ones who, give us all this technology, all this know-how to be able to allow us to talk to you when you're calling in. So they are the ones that should get the massive, massive thank yous. But also, while we're on the subject, if you want to thank my guest, Phoebe Rose, non-profit extraordinaire, please do so in the side chat or in the comments. Show your love for Phoebe. This is inadvertently an all British episode, but we've not planned it to be that way as such.
A lot of British news floating around there, isn't there?
there is, and I'm sure that it will come out during the show if you don't keep sidetracking me.
But what I would say about the crew cam, I would say this about the crew cam, is that it's weird to be on this side of it. Normally, I'm on the other side of it because I'm one of those fancy call screening people. So, yeah, big love to my call screening colleagues out there.
Yes, of course, big love to everybody who is involved in the production of this show. I wrote that cold open. I'm going to get to calls in just a second, but I wrote that cold open because, one of, as people, regular viewers will probably know, one of my pet hates is people just making comments in the comment section and just writing stuff and preaching at us and things like that. And callers, if you are one of those people who wants to tell us Jesus loves you or we're going to hell or the end is coming, give us a call and give us an actual argument, because I wasn't just like blowing out hair when I said that preaching doesn't convince us. It really, really is the least likely thing to convince me that God exists. And if you have good evidence, if you have a compelling argument, I would have no choice. This show has more than 90,000 subscribers. You would have a good chance of converting all of them if you came up with a good argument or compelling evidence. And that's all you need to do. But preaching is not the way to do it. But aside from that, I've been having lots of conversations lately. And I had the last time I was on the show, we talked about Taoism a little bit. We had a call about Taoism. And I have been having so many calls about fluffy, conversations about fluffy, new age spiritualist nonsense lately. And let me tell you, these people get their feathers ruffled far more than the most ruffled feathered Christians do. So if you're one of those people who thinks that there's some merit to this fluffy nonsense, perennial philosophy and all of that jazz, give us a call because we want to talk to you as well. Having said that, we do have a caller on the line. I'm going to pick them up now. This is Cadence from Florida, who is asking, does religion pollute politics? Hello, Cadence. How are you?
Hello, Cadence.
Good. How are you?
Very, very well. So, does
I'm Sunday best. I am the Sunday best.
Does religion pollute politics? I'm going to give you, let you make your ask your question, and I'm going to let Phoebe take it because this is her area of expertise. So
this is non-profits to the T. This is
Let's not promote or disparage any particular parties or political figures in this. Let's keep it nice and neutral. Mm-hmm. But go ahead, Cadence, ask your question.
Right. Yeah. So I've just been noticing, my stepdad watches the news, and I've just been paying more attention to what's going on with the conflict with Israel and Palestine. And, in this instance, I don't take any sides, because it's both sad that innocent people are dying, on both sides. That's when I started kind of watching a little bit more of the news that my stepdad does, which is Fox News, but it doesn't matter. But and then I just noticed that, I know you say don't call out one party, so I'm not, but I'm sure you can figure out that one side seems to really justify their policies and actions because of what they believe. And so I was wondering, do you guys think that religion makes politics even worse, or do you think it's what makes politics so horrible? Because, I feel like, a lot of Americans are on Team Israel, which, again, I'm not on either team, and I feel like it's very kind of going on blind faith because, they believe it's the Holy Land. And yeah, so what do you guys think about politics and religion? Does religion pollute politics, or is politics just bad by itself?
Phoebe.
There's a lot to unpack there. And the issues going on in the Middle East have a lot of resonance with a lot of individuals around the world. A lot of my family members are quite animated on this. A lot of my friends are quite animated on this. I am an atheist, but I'm also ethnically Jewish. So that's a very interesting perspective that I end up with from a lot of individuals on this. But then on the other side, I have a lot of individuals who I know who are on the other side of that. And I think the issue in the middle here is that if we wind the clock back to 2001 and September the 11th, and we see the fallout of the politics and the religion that occurred there. So a lot of the politics ended up fueling a lot of anti-Islam and a lot of anti-Arabic sentiment, which was unjustified. And I think that element of the politics is quite polluting, because we're seeing a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment, a lot of anti-Semitic sentiment, a lot of anti-Jewish sentiment, a lot of anti-Palestinian sentiment, which is also quite polluting as well as a result of this. And it's exemplified by what happened in, I think it was Vermont, where some Palestinian students were attacked, and that's quite polluting in and of itself. But we have also seen a rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes as a result, and that is very polluting. And I think that anytime you get religion involved, people are going to bring their own personal politics into things. And when I say personal politics, I don't mean partisan politics with a capital P. I mean politics with a small p here. And this will be things like what you hold to be your values and how that goes forward, and how you view yourself and your lens of viewing yourself. So after 9/11, a lot of Americans were deeply hurt by what happened, and they wanted an outlet to it. And it was a very toxic outlet that led to a lot of anti-Islam and a lot of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories coming forwards, and a lot of fairly strange things that were being said. Like, I remember when they were planning on building an Islamic cultural center in Manhattan, and they called it the 9/11 Mosque, which was, quite frankly, some of the strangest terminology I've ever heard used in relation to this. And when you do get things that are very political, that are tragedies, you have a tendency to polarize people, and things are seen very black and very white. And that in and of itself is the polluting element, because the shades of gray will always exist, and we will all be responsible for it. No matter how great a human being you are, we will all be responsible when there is something that affects us deeply, that is a tragedy. We will begin to move towards those black and white extremes. And we have an issue where your own personal politics and your own religion or your perception of the religion of others will be affecting how you respond, and that can be very polluting in either a sympathetic way or an antagonistic way, depending on how you yourself respond to it. So, for example, people could be very sympathetic to the individuals who were responsible for certain acts of terrorism. And even using the word act of terrorism is in and of itself in the eye of the person saying it, because the term terrorism has many different meanings as you go around different people. Because what is one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, as they say. I mean, you just have to look at some of the terminology that was used regarding Nelson Mandela. To some people, he is a terrorist. To some people, and to a vast majority of people, he is a person who was fighting for the freedom of South Africa from apartheid. But it all depends on your perspective. And when you go to the extremes, that's the pollution. And you must never allow yourself to go to those extremes, because when you hit those extremes, you can find it very difficult to see what the reasonable questioning answers are in the middle. Why is this happening? What is the solution to this? Not, you did this, I'm going to get back at you.
And I was gonna ask too, because I'm very middle with everything. I'm very in the middle with politics, so I tend to offend both sides at some points. But why do you think it's so difficult for some people to see the middle ground? Of situations. Do you think that has to do with like media? Extreme media? What's your take on that?
My opinion, it's personally insecurity from the person. The person is insecure to a point where they aren't confident in their own convictions. So they will generally take a position that sits where they feel most comfortable. And if they can avoid being the center of attention because they are insecure about what that will do to them, they may follow other individuals. And we see that in all walks of life. So you take a classroom full of students, the most secure person in the room is the one that's going to put their hand up and say, I think the answer is this. Insecure people in that classroom aren't going to go, oh, yes, the answer is this, because it's where they're not comfortable doing it.
Right. I see. Okay. Yeah, I just, I've been an atheist for about 2 years, maybe. Well, truly, I don't think I ever believed. I think it was just because I was brought up. I just said I was Christian. But I've noticed a lot about the world, that, like you said, it's not so black and white as some people might think. And I also called a few weeks ago. I think I was talking with you and Jimmy about, my family, some of my family kind of like telling me that I'm lost because I don't believe in God and stuff. And I was just also curious, I get very, this is a little sideline, I'll make it quick. When I've been very outspoken about my atheism because even like online on Facebook, not every day, but and they seem to get very upset. They didn't care about what I believed in until it was something they didn't believe in. And I'm just wondering, should I be so vocal about it, or should I just let them believe what they want? Because they seem to get very upset.
How comfortable are you, Cadence? Because I think that all depends on how comfortable you are doing it. If you're very comfortable having these conversations, then continue to have them. If you're not comfortable, or if it's going to put you in a difficult spot, if you're like financially reliant on anyone, then there's no harm in not having these conversations, especially with those close around you. It doesn't stop you interacting with people kind of outside your immediate friends and families or online. But certainly it all, for me, it's all about how comfortable you are doing it. Being outspoken, being an activist, all these things is not for everyone. And, it comes with having or developing a little bit of a thick skin along the lines of it. People like me and Phoebe have been doing this for a long, long time. And, if you're only just starting to have these conversations, you might not be in a position where you feel comfortable talking to everybody and, going through the nitty-gritty with everybody on all these different subjects. And there's no harm in not doing it. There's self-care is the most important thing, and you being comfortable with yourself. And, I would say do it to the extent that you are comfortable doing it. I don't know if Phoebe has anything to add on that.
What I would say is what Richard said at the beginning. Preaching is the least effective way to convince anybody or to have a conversation on the merits of what you're talking about. So if you're having a conversation with them that is a genuine dialogue, in my opinion, that's wonderful. If you are going in there and saying Christianity is bunk and, Judaism is, hokum and Islam is trash, so you're not going to get anywhere. Or equally, if you go, atheism is the greatest, atheism is the only way forward, you are an idiot and you shouldn't be doing this, that, and the other, you're not going to get anywhere with them because people are going to put their defenses up and they're just going to go off.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell you where the sun doesn't shine. So if you are having conversations with somebody, have a conversation with them as a friend, as a family member. Don't have a conversation with them as someone who's going in there to try to change their mind. Have a conversation with them where you're going to try to extract what they actually believe. I have found the conversations that I have that are the most productive are where you talk and you disagree. Because that disagreement that you have shows the other person that you hold them to be an equal in the conversation. And nobody likes to be seen as anything other than an equal in a conversation. Because then you feel infantilized and you feel like you're being treated like a child. And you're more likely to get an honest conversation with someone if you are having a dialogue that is on the same level.
Yeah, because my granddad last night texted me and was like, you need to stop putting that stupid crap on Facebook about atheism. And, I stood my ground, but I was really polite because he's my granddad, but I'm pretty comfortable with having these conversations. Sometimes I do get a little heated with them. I think it's better to talk about it in person, than over online, because I think when you talk in person with anybody about anything, there's kind of that mutual respect already, as opposed to online where it's like you can say whatever you want, and get away with it. So
there's also the context. A lot of context is missed when you're talking, especially on formats like Facebook, where it's a text-based format. You can be saying something perfectly reasonable, and it can come across as really aggressive. And it can be really difficult to have a nuanced conversation using non-verbal formats or even non-visual formats where you're not picking up on people's body language. So it's worth bearing that in mind when you're having these conversations as well. That's not to say don't have just non-visual textual conversations, because you can have them, but it's worth being aware that nuance is often missed while you're having them.
Yes, yeah, that's very true. Communication is more than just words, it's body language and whatnot. I know you got other callers. I just want to thank you guys. I started watching y'all's show not too long ago. Well, first it was the Atheist Experience, but anyhow, I just want to thank you guys for, speaking for, well, maybe not all of us, but most of us. And just thank you and keep doing what you guys are doing.
No, thank you, Cadence. We really appreciate your call. Do call back again and keep us updated in these conversations that you're having with your families. I think calls like that are really important. There's something that they're really important for me, who's never been a religious person, who's never had a religious family as such, to understand how some of these people I'm talking to, a lot of the theists, if they're going to go through deconstruction, it's important for me to listen to people who are going through or have come through that deconstruction, to understand where they might end up, because it helps me to kind of frame the conversations in such a way to understand that these people might be coming out of things and might be communicating with people in their own families and the friend circles themselves one day. Phoebe, you were religious at one point, so how do you relate to that?
It's one of those things where you realize that if you are secure enough in yourself, you are secure enough to grow. And looking back on it, I was having issues with my own personal sense of self, my own place in the world. And it's always interesting to see where people go with it. Because some people, when they start to deconstruct, their faith gets strengthened as opposed to it being weakened. And it all depends upon the person themselves. For me personally, it was a series of events in my life that shocked me and I began to reevaluate. But don't sit there in silence, because it can have serious effects on your physical and mental health. Try to understand and explain things. And what I found was the most challenging thing was I found out who truly was a friend of mine and who truly was just a religious accoutrement.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's something I've never experienced, and I love hearing other people's stories on it. We have, if you want to get the word out about the show, we have flyers available at tiny.cc/ATA flyers. They are printable calling flyers. You can post these with permission to community bulletin boards, so people know they should call our show and defend their faith. If you do post any flyers, make sure to snap a picture of it in place, or you with it. In fact, if you don't mind having your photo shown, and send it to tv@atheist-community.org, and we may feature your photo in an upcoming show. And you can follow Talk Heathen on TikTok at Talk Heathen, and join us for our pre-show lives on the ACA TikTok, Atheist Community of Austin. And you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and comment below on your favorite caller. Every week I read through every comment that is posted, so just be aware that regardless of whether I'm hosting or not, my beady eyes will be in the background at all times. We have another caller we are going to take, Terry, who is a theist from Canada and whose call is about prophecy being a proof of God. Terry, how are you?
How are you guys doing?
Hi, Terry.
Yeah, I heard the beginning of your show, and you said you don't want no preaching. You want an argument, and if there's an argument, you have 90,000 people that could be converted. So, voici. The chef is here to serve you something very delicious. So, are you willing? Are you ready for an argument?
Oh, good. Yes. Go on then.
This better be a cordon bleu argument. I am expecting Michelin star argument here.
Yeah. I'm going to give you an argument for sure. So this is a syllogistic argument, a modus ponens. So if Jesus can demonstrate universal sovereignty, that will make him God. Premise 2, Jesus did demonstrate universal sovereignty in virtue of the fact that he predicted the universal adoption of the 7-day week as the evidence of his authority over all nations. Conclusion, all nations keep a 7-day week going against their religious and cultural practices. Therefore, Jesus is God. So
can we cut to the chef? Terence, Le Chef, whatever you want to call yourself, or whatever you're calling yourself these days. Can we cut to the chase and go to the actual verse wherein Jesus made this prediction?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. Oh, I never thought you would ask that question. So we can go to Isaiah 66, verse 23. That's one of many. Isaiah 66, 23, it says, from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, will all flesh come to worship me. So I'm arguing for the Sabbath to Sabbath, which is intrinsically linked to a 7-day week. So for this part of the prophecy to be fulfilled, it requires a 7-day week, and all nations during that time did not keep a 7-day week except for Israel. So for this prophecy to be fulfilled, you have to have the
worship God.
Of the 7-day week universal.
I don't worship God. I don't worship God. I don't worship God.
Yeah,
so we have falsified that verse. What's your next argument?
Terry, I've got a question for you. Are you aware, Terry, before we carry on, are you aware of the Soviet Union, Terry?
Yeah, they adopted it in the 1930s, yeah.
But are you aware of the Soviet Union?
Yes, they had a 5-day week and they adopted it in the 1930s. Yes.
And are you aware they also had a 6-day week?
I'm sorry?
Are you also aware they had a 6-day week?
They had a 5-day week. 5 days.
And then they went to a 6-day week.
What's the point?
So, but the point I'm getting at here is, do you know why they abolished the 5- and 6-day week and went to a 7-day week? Do you know why they abolished it?
How about you tell me?
They abolished it because factory maintenance. It was convenient to have 1 day set aside a week to do factory maintenance, as opposed to having rolling 5- and 6-day weeks where people got different days off. So it had nothing to do with any form of religiosity. And
so my argument is not, so you're basically arguing the same thing the last guy said. So I'm going to address that. My argument is not predicated on your religious worship. My argument is God could be God without your worship. So for you to even...
Your argument was predicated, shut up and let me speak, or I will get rid of you faster than something that gets rid of something very, very fast, because I can't think of anything at the moment. But your argument was one of prophecy. The verse you gave me to substantiate that was from one moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all mankind will come and bow down before me, says the Lord. I do not bow down to God. I have falsified your argument. You, sir, are wrong. Have you got another argument?
So can I explain to you why that's so ridiculous of your part? Because it seems...
No, because I have demonstrated absolutely that you are wrong. Have you got another argument or not? Is that it, or are you just relying on that that's just being falsified really, really easily?
Have a conversation.
Yeah, we are having a conversation. I falsified your argument. I'm asking you if you have another one. Your response should be, yes, I have another argument. I have another line of prophecy which demonstrates God. Or, no, I do not. That's how a conversation works. Do you have...
Okay, so basically what you're saying is I should accept your ridiculous objection?
It's not a ridiculous objection. You gave me the verse, sir. You could have chose any verse in the entire Bible.
Why are you saying that's referring to worship? Why are you saying it's referring to worship?
Because
you also brought up universal sovereignty, and to bring up universal sovereignty implies a level of universality, and to have universality would require Richard to do exactly what the verse says, and without Richard doing exactly what the verse says, there's no universality, because Richard isn't following that verse, so therefore there's no universality in following that. So that is the base reason as to why that is a complete load of horse manure, as you brought up universality in the first place, and for it to be accurate, you would have to have universality, so Richard would have to bow down before God.
Oh, yeah, universality in virtue of you adopting a 7-day week. My argument is on your practice of keeping a 7-day week, not your worship. Are you ridiculous? That's what
you brought up. You
brought it up, sir.
You brought it up.
Did I ever...
Your argumentation was that there is bowing down and worship before God. You brought up a universal truth for the evidence and
the verse
requirement for that to be true. You have to have universal compliance with whatever evidence you have. Richard does not universally comply with it. Therefore, you do not have universal compliance. I do not universally comply with it. You do not get universal compliance. Just one thing says you have universal 7-day weeks does not mean that what you brought as your evidence has any meaning whatsoever, because the fallacy and the logical loophole that I'm sailing the America's Cup through right now is being demonstrated as being wider than my ego.
Which is huge, let me tell you.
Are you okay? You need a tranquilizer or something? Can you not panic too much?
Terry, I've muted you. Just for the moment, I'll get you back on in a second. I'm just going to talk without you having the ability to talk about the verse you presented, which says, I'm using the New International Version, by the way, from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, which is the 7-day week you're referring to. Now, this is a prophecy part, not the 7-day week part. This is a prophecy part. All mankind will come and bow down before me, says the Lord. That has been falsified. You have been shown to be wrong. Would you like to respond to that particular point and nothing else? You are unmuted.
Yeah, so I could address how ridiculous your claim was. First of all, it starts off, it shall be. The verse starts off with "it shall be." The prophecy.
Yes, that's what prophecies do, sir. They start off with "it shall be."
You got caught again. You're ridiculous. This is what I mean.
So are you going to?
You guys are
right.
Smart, but
I have muted you again, and I'm going to continue muting you until you address the specific point that I ask you about. The verse which you claim is a prophecy is all mankind will come and bow down before me. That has not happened. That prophecy has not been fulfilled. So that has not demonstrated the existence as God. Your call screening notes say prophecy is proof of God. Past tense, it has been demonstrated. So that has not been demonstrated. Would you like to give you one more chance to respond to that particular point that I have raised in that verse, that all mankind will come down and bow down before me? Would you like to address that point, sir? I am unmuting you now.
All right, so I'll try one more time, and then hopefully you don't panic this time and show you have some type of credibility. So number one, I made it clear the whole verse is a prophecy, number one. And number two, as it relates to your specific claim, where it says, "Oh, for all flesh will come to worship me," I'm arguing the fact that everybody keeps a 7-day week first. If I say 2, 4, 6, then I know the pattern.
Right. I don't care about the first part because that's irrelevant. The part I'm challenging, sir, shut up. The part I am challenging is the second part, which states mankind will come down and bow down before me. Can you address that part? I'm not interested in the first part. It is irrelevant. Can you address the second part of that verse?
Am I on? Okay, so yeah, as it relates to the second part, which is talking about those who will be saved, if you go to Isaiah 66, verse 19, is referring to only those who will be saved. But before that, a 7-day week has to be universally adopted.
Thank you. Goodbye. Right. First of all, that person, I'm going to make it known to everybody because I want everybody to know how dishonest you are, Terry, lied to our call screener to get onto the show and didn't present that they were who they said they were. And finally, I debunked the verse you gave as prophecy within a few seconds.
The other thing,
if
the other
that's
thing I want
the
to just
best you have, yeah, go on, Phoebe, jump in, please.
Is that he claims there's a universal 7-day week. This is not actually accurate because I'm pretty certain that if I was to go to some of the wealthiest people in the United Kingdom, they would turn around and ask you, "What is a weekend? What is a week? What is a job?" And I'm pretty certain if I was to go to some of the native tribes in Amazonia, they wouldn't even keep a calendar, let alone a 7-day week. So the claim of universality of a 7-day week is absolutely 100% nonsense, because there is no way of knowing whether the tribes on the Andaman Islands keep a 7-day week, because those tribes don't allow outsiders in and attack outsiders to stop them from coming in. So there's no way of knowing that level of universality. And also, it refers to all flesh will bow down. I wasn't aware that budgerigars and giraffes and fish were bowing down.
I want to just make something very, very clear for the people who may be first-time listeners, because I don't want them to think that that's normally how we speak to the people who call into the show. This show is about friendly conversations and mutual exploration. That previous caller has called several times before, had his arguments thoroughly debunked several times before, and keeps using dishonest tactics to try and get back onto the show, using pseudonyms and other guises to pretend he's not who he is, and that the argument he is making is not the same old trash which has been debunked many, many times already. So, for new religious callers, 2 points. First of all, we will not be talking to you like we talk to him, unless you act like him and be blatantly dishonest. And secondly, if that's the best that Christianity has to offer, then Christianity is in dire straits. If you think you can do better than that, give us a call, because if you don't call us, he is the representation of Christianity that you are leaving us with.
Or if you believe it is in dire straits and you're a member of the band Dire Straits, please call in.
Yeah, we will accept calls from the members of the band Dire Straits for reasons. Yes. I told you me and Phoebe were going to have fun during this show, no matter what everybody else thought. We are going to jump to the top 5 patrons. I'm going to, as is tradition on this show, get the guest to read them out. So Phoebe, take it away.
So in the order that I have been given them, the top 5 patrons are Dingleberry Jackson, Oops, all singularity, Dark Wolf Games, Davar Vagin, and Calvert Helvetti. Those are our top 5 patrons, but we do have to have an honourable mention around these parts, and that is, our honourable mention goes to Chris.
Yeah, thank you to all of you. We really do appreciate the patrons. This cannot be mentioned enough, and I don't think it is mentioned enough that we really, really do rely on your patronage. I put a thank you message in the patron thing
Into
the
the
other
place
week.
where you can support us.
That's the one, and where you get your exclusive messages and exclusive content for being a patron. And because I really, really do appreciate it, and we've got some great things planned for the patrons in the future. And I myself, by the way, I'm a patron and have been since before I was even a host of this show. A long, many years ago, in fact, I've been a patron of this show for a long time. So, it's
You
not
bloody
just,
heathen.
we're not just asking you to throw money at us. I support this show. I love this show, and I've supported this show for a long time, and I genuinely appreciate those of you who do as well out there. We have, of course, super chats, which you can send us, and we will read if they are appropriate to read. And we have one from Matt. No, it's not from Matt. It's Matt who's posted it in our chats, and I've read his name out. So thank you, Matt, for posting it in our chat for my attention. It is, in fact, Monkey at Typewriter, who has sent $2 and says, has undeniable truth, uses multiple aliases. Yes, absolutely. Spot on. Phoebe, would you like to choose the next call?
I think that we should take Luke from Florida.
Okay, Luke from Florida, who wants to talk about humans are a connected species and have the same brain. Luke, explain to us what you mean.
Well, I just believe, like any other species, humans, have the same brain and that we reproduce as the same thing. And I believe that humans have a lot of potential. If we work together, we could create a perfect world and, and always exist in that perfect world. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what you're referring to here. Because what do you mean by the same education? Because that can't be true, because everybody will have a different experience in the world, and those experiences form part of your education.
No, what I'm referring to is everybody had the same education and understood reality in the same way, then everybody could work together to create a perfect world. There wouldn't be like belief systems in religion and different things like that. If everybody understood science and everybody understood how to build and develop and work together, then we could create a perfect world without harm or negativity, And
are you referring to a utopian creation here?
I guess you could say that. I mean, more of what I'm referring to is just humans, seeing eye to eye with each other, everybody understanding the science that we're all the same, because we do all have the same brain, we all have that same organ, and everybody having the ability to work together to create a perfect world. And what I believe could be achieved through that is in a sense, immortality.
What do you mean by have the same brain? I mean, I had the same type of eyes as you, but I probably have a different prescription on my glasses to you. So are my eyes therefore the same as yours?
No, well, I mean, when I say the same brain, I mean, we have the same parts. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And so,
but what about individuals who are non-neurotypical? Do they have the same brains as people who are neurotypical?
What do you mean by that? Elaborate a little more.
So neurodivergency, are you aware of the concept of neurodivergency?
No, what does that mean?
So neurodivergency is individuals who do not have what is classified as standard thinking patterns. So dyscalculia, dyslexia, ADHD, autism, etc. People who see the world in a different way to people who are not diagnosed with any of those kinds of conditions.
Well, I've studied those a lot, and what it comes down to is gray and white matter in the brain, and those are the only differences, or in chemicals too. And everybody, and those individuals, I mean, they have the ability to increase those things. They can increase gray matter, they can increase white matter, and they can increase chemicals by physical exercise or studying more. So they have the ability to be balanced out.
But I'm not sure how we get to the creation of a perfect world if we don't all actually have the same baseline.
Explain that a little more.
So the same baseline that you've just said, we all have the same brain. I don't actually believe we all have, quote, the same brain, because my brain will be formed differently to Richard's brain and your brain, in the same way that my muscles formed differently to Usain Bolt's muscles. Usain Bolt, genetically speaking, has better muscles for power and sprint speed than I will ever have. So the genetics that we have mean that we're not actually all the same, and we can't be all the same because otherwise we would never have evolution and we would never move forwards, and we would never have any way of diversifying our species, and we would have genetic rot and we would end up going extinct.
No, well, I think that's a pretty far reach. What I mean by the same brain is that, yeah, everybody has the same parts. Now, what can change one person's, but I mean, people have different belief systems, obviously.
What do you mean by the same parts?
I mean, if you look at brain anatomy, you can clearly see all the parts in the human brain, and everybody has all those parts, right? And so...
But that's not a universal truth, because evolution has allowed us to move from having parts that weren't there to parts that are there, to having parts that are now redundant, that are no longer used, that may be more pronounced in other people. So as evolution moves through, these parts will change, develop, and either add or subtract based on the evolutionary criteria and the evolutionary trajectory that we're ending up with.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of evidence for that. I just think that everybody has the same parts and every part of their brain is active.
I'm going to stop here.
I mean, that's what we
do. You believe in the theory of evolution?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what this is about. I mean,
I'm just trying to get to fundamentals here. What is your opinion and your understanding of the theory of evolution?
I mean, I do understand the human species, and I understand species. I mean, when we procreate.
Please answer my question. What is evolution, as far as you are understanding it?
I mean, it's just how life got here. I mean, that's about all anybody knows. But we do know the brain. We could do, we do know the brain, and we do know the parts in the brain, and everybody has it.
Hang on a minute. Do you believe in the theory of evolution that we evolved from water-based creatures that became land-based creatures that then became bipedal creatures and so on? Do you agree with that line?
Yeah, of course.
So if we were to go, So if we were to go backwards, and we go back to fish, and you compare the brain of a fish and the brain of a human, would you say that they are the same brain? Because theoretically, the brain of the fish evolved into the brain of the human over millions of years.
No, not at all. Obviously, humans have the same brain, and fish have different brains, just like rabbits have the same.
So hang on. So you're undercutting your own argument here.
So give me a second. What I'm referring to is every human being has the same brain. If you're a human, you have the same. You know what I mean? That's what I know. There's, obviously evolution and how things got to this point, but every human being, has the same brain. Every human being has the same parts. That's what I'm referring to.
But this is you're undercutting your own argument here, because if you believe that evolution is something which is occurring, and you allow for mutation to occur, you allow for things to change over time, by default, you can't have human beings being facsimiles of each other. You can't have it. It can't be true if you also hold that evolution is a theory that you accept and is credible.
I don't think that at all. I think evidence shows that humans do have the same brain. I mean, you can look it up online and clearly see.
You're missing the fundamental point here. Do you agree that evolutionary mutation can and does occur?
But that has nothing to do with what I'm saying now.
But you're saying that humans are facsimiles.
Humans are what?
A facsimile. The same over and over and over and over and over again. Like when you send a fax, you will get an identical copy out the other side.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as the brain goes, I mean, the humans share the same.
But you keep saying as far as the brain goes as if that's some assertion that I'm just supposed to accept as being true.
But no. It's not an assertion you have to accept. I mean, you can clearly see brain anatomy.
No. By saying you can clearly see is another assertion that you're telling me to accept. I'm providing you with theoretical challenges to that based on evolution that you keep on saying this and this and this is. You're just saying it is. You're not actually providing me any evidence to say it is because.
Well, let me rewind a little bit. We know the human brain. We know every human has the same brain with the same parts.
Stop.
And everything that led up to
We don't know every human has the same brain with the same parts. We know that the majority of humans have the majority of the same parts. We don't know about genetic mutations in individuals that will enhance the brain or may cause errors in the brain. That's how genetic mutations work. Changes over a long period of time that are desirable are kept, and changes over a long period of time that are undesirable are lost. So if you were to look at a human from 1 million years ago and compare it to a human today, the brain would not be the same.
Okay, but now, where we're at now, every human does have the same brain.
No, I refuse to accept that every human has an identical brain.
But they do, and I mean...
No, but you're just saying they do.
Can I just jump in a second
do.
here? Let me just jump in because Phoebe touched on it a little while ago about neurodiversity and people with things like autism. My son has autism. I've got friends who've got autism, and their brains do not operate in the same way that my brain operates in. they see the world in a different way. They address the world in a different way. They react to the world in a different way. And if your argument, just to kind of condense it, is that if everyone got the same education because we've got the same brain, we'd be able to create a perfect world, other than being a very much a kind of a utopia kind of argument, it wouldn't. I don't think you're kind of grasping what Phoebe's saying to you, and that is that people don't just simply take the stuff in, the information in the same way. People react to things very, very differently. In neurodiversity, people who have conditions like autism, they do what's called masking. They mask normal behavior, normal social behavior, mainstream social behavior, and then they go home, and then they just explode. The brains can just explode, and it's their way of reacting to the fact that they've been masking, they've been pretending all day while they've been out doing whatever they've been doing in these social circumstances, to act like the normal person, the everyday kind of normal. And I'm doing that in air quotes for those who are listening, because I'm not suggesting there is a normal as such, but they're the kind of accepted societal behavior. And they go home, and because they've been masking, they react very, very differently, and it can be very, very difficult for them to have to do this masking. And people just simply don't respond the same way. Our brains are not all the same chemically. And if we had a level playing field with exactly the same education, with exactly the same belief systems, people would still respond differently. And I think that's the point that you're kind of missing in this. It's a nice idea from a kind of perfect world scenario thing, but it wouldn't happen. It couldn't happen. Because that's not how we operate as human beings. Our brains are set up, even normal, again, air quotes, brains are set up to fail. That's what evolution has done. We make mistakes. We are pattern recognition. Our brains are set up for pattern recognition, and that means, in layman's terms, they are set up to make mistakes when we're trying to assess things. So we cannot.
Can I make it very?
It's not a case that people don't want to. It's that we cannot process things in this kind of idealized way you're putting forward.
Sir. So let me explain it from my perspective. Okay. So the anatomy of the brain, it means that everybody has the same parts. Now, chemically, people can balance out their chemicals through physical exercise, through eating healthy. I mean, that's a proven fact. Okay. And so,
hang on a minute. Hang on. A proven fact. You keep on making these assertions. A proven fact. It is the same.
Anybody listening?
I've got a question. I've got a question here for you. Do you believe that my brain and your brain are the same?
Do I believe what?
That my brain and your brain are the same.
I believe that we have the same parts. So yes.
Would it shock you to know that I'm a high-functioning autistic woman?
So yes, I believe that. Yeah, we do have the same brain. I have the same parts. And
but does it shock you that I'm a high-functioning autistic woman?
I don't know about high-functioning autistic woman. I know they have the same brain and the same parts too. And if they did physical exercise,
but you're missing what I'm asking here.
And that's proven fact.
No, stop saying that's proven fact, because it's not. You keep on making that assertion, and the more you keep making that assertion, the less rope I'm going to give you to play with.
No.
Please stop making baseless assertions that this is proven fact. This is the way it is. Stop doing that. That is very bad faith, and it assumes that you and I have the same outcome here. Please. Do you find it surprising that I'm a high-functioning autistic woman?
Let me talk. It is a proven fact that with physical exercise...
Stop! I'm going to stop you there. Do not say it is a proven fact. Do not say it just is. Do not say things that are assertions without actual evidence. Do not come on here and expect us to just believe what you say just because you say it. If you can't do that, I will end this call. You have one last chance. If you turn around and say, it is because it is, I'm ending the call. Go.
Sir, wait. I want to say one thing because you kind of cut me off a little bit. Are you still there?
Yeah, no one. We're letting you talk. Go on.
I'm sorry. Just let me explain my part real quick, okay? Okay. So,
Yeah, but you cannot. If you cannot explain it without using
to explain it,
assertions that it is true because you're saying it is, I'm going to end the call.
Explain it. No. So I looked it up on peer-reviewed articles, and it says physical exercise can increase chemicals. Physical exercise can increase gray and white matter. Those are the only differences in the human brain, and they could be increased.
And Luke has left us. Right, Luke, when you're asked not to do something several times, especially by a guest on this show, it's not even a regular host, one of the guests who have come on who've been invited on to speak, and they ask you several times not to do something and you just repeat the same thing, you're not going to be stay around to repeat it fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, how many times? Physical exercise, I'm not autistic. Phoebe has stated that she is high-functioning autistic. What the suggestion that you're making implies that what you're saying is with physical exercise, Phoebe's autism will go away, which is nonsense.
Richard will develop the same autism as me.
If I don't exercise, yeah. Want to become autistic? Eat a burger and sit in your chair.
Want to become autistic? Get on a treadmill and do it right away.
It's you don't appear to be listening, so please go back, listen to the call again, and really try and digest what we were saying. We have a couple of more super chats. We have Polo Bean, who sends €5 and says, "Hi, Richard." Hi, Polo Bean. Please tell me what your accent is called. I know, really relevant to the show. I'm going to throw this over to Phoebe so Phoebe can tell you what my accent is called.
I'd just say bloody northerner.
That will do.
I'd just say you bloody northerner.
So this is the thing. We have this thing in Britain where in England where you are from the north or from the south, and that's it. That's the only demarcation line we have. And
I am a proud southerner, and you will never get me talking like a bloody northerner.
And I'm from the north. We drink cups of gravy and eat pie sandwiches and take us whippets to walk, and we're never seen outside with artist flat caps. No, we're not. So that's a demarcation line. So it's bloody northern.
I ain't got a clue what you're talking about, Maduck.
It's bloody northern. And
bloody northern.
Phoebe is a southerner, and my accent is bloody northern. Thank you for the super
northern
chat, Polo Bean. Very much appreciate that. Quantum Answer, who's been a member for 2 months,
200 Czech krona.
Exactly that. How does that follow? Who says that because Jesus made prophecy, he is God? Why should that be the case? Jesus was supposed to fulfill prophecies to be Messiah, not make them. How is that first premise substantiated? It wasn't, is the short answer to that. I believe we might have another super chat, which I think I caught, but I can't see it in the chat. I don't know if I hallucinated it. No, we do have one, which I will.
I didn't realize I had AI, because AI has this wonderful thing of hallucinating things. So if you're hallucinating them, are you real? Or are you just artificial intelligence, Richard, hallucinating things?
I am artificial intelligence, Richard. I don't know if that's what artificial intelligence sounds like. Miranda Rensberger sends $5 US saying having different brains is a good thing. Neurodivergent people see things in different ways, and the rest of us can learn from them. Amen. So that's my lass. I definitely agree with you there. That's a great one. Let's have a look. And Polo Bean has sent another €5. Thank you. Saying thanks for the info. Smiley face. Lots of love for you and Phoebe from Germany. Phoebe's not from Germany.
Nein, danke und Deutsche. Nein, danke, Deutsche.
No, thank you. We appreciate the super chats
Danke,
very much.
€3. Polo Bean, danke, €3.
I'm going to bring
danke, €5. Danke, €5.
I can't speak German. I have no idea what she's saying.
Here is 4 and 5 is 5, and I accidentally knocked a euro off when I accidentally said thank you for the €4 when I should have said thank you for the €5.
Thank you, Phoebe. I am going to bring in. There was a call I wanted to take about the universe beginning. If that caller is still listening, please do call back because I was really excited about that call. In the meantime, I'm going to take reluctantly Miguel, who called a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to be quite forthright with them. So, Miguel, you have said you've discovered proof of God and you want to read your poem about it. You're not reading your poem about it, but I think last time the hosts, I don't remember who you were talking to, it was Jimmy and someone else maybe.
I want to say Dr. Ben, but I think I'm
maybe.
wrong.
But please, let's have a conversation and let's address the parts where, because you made lots of straw men in the last conversation you had. Let's address those and
Miguel,
and kind of
Steel Manus.
That's it. Would you like to present your proof of God, Miguel?
Yes, but we have to go step by step, because if we don't go step by step, we don't go anywhere, because last time, for example, the host didn't accept, that reality is eternal. If we don't accept,
so let's stop you there. Let's stop there. You're wanting to go step by step. I'm more than happy to do that. Reality is eternal. Is
Miguel,
that your claim? Yes or no?
Miguel, did you listen to the last call?
Well, it was fast and furious.
Did you listen to the substance of the last call?
No, not really. What?
So I will say this now to you, and I'll say this at the beginning to you. Please do not make assertions that you expect us to just believe. The assertion that reality is eternal is wording that you're giving to us that you're expecting us to just believe. Please don't use expectations on us that what you're saying is the case. Please don't do that.
Okay, let's go step by step. Let's go step by step from the beginning. Let's go step for step from the beginning. Does reality exist now? Does something exist now? Is reality exist? Yes or no?
Yes, reality exists.
As far as I'm concerned, reality exists, yes.
Yes, exactly. We are alive. Now reality exists. The second debate, the second question is, can reality be created from nothing?
I don't personally believe so, and I don't think it was.
And it depends what you mean by nothing.
Yes.
Nothing is absence of existence.
How do you? The next question is, if you have an absence of something, how do you then fill that if there is nothing, as we're saying here, if there is an absence of everything, how do you create something so that there is no longer an absence of everything?
I mean, the point is, from something that doesn't exist, from nothing, cannot be created reality, cannot be created.
I agree.
And I would agree with that too. Can't disagree with that.
Exactly. So the logical conclusion, is a straightforward conclusion, logical conclusion, is that reality is eternal. Always something.
No,
because you are throwing. You're
making a
throwing
leap
the word
there.
eternal there, and eternal can mean more than one thing. Now, I've no problem with accepting that eternal reality is eternal. I've no problem with accepting that whatsoever. But it is not a self-evident thing, and it can mean different things. Does it mean that there is a necessary being, and let's say that the universe is in philosophy is a necessary being? That means it has to exist. Or are you stating that there is a past eternality built on a series of events?
I am saying that always, no matter how back you go in time, always something has existed. That's a fact. That is pure and simple logic.
That is not pure and simple logic, but I actually agree with you. But so
it's not
we
pure
can...
and simple logic, though, insofar as that.
Unless Phoebe disagrees in any way, I'm happy to move on with the argument. I'll let Phoebe just quickly respond before we move on. When she's finished choking.
We move on. From now on, the thing is, reality is eternal. So reality is eternal now and always. We don't have to fight again for that point. We move forward from that point. Now the next question is: can the universe be eternal? Is it possible or impossible that the universe is eternal?
The universe isn't eternal. We know when the universe began.
We have red shifts, and you are going to eventually get blue shifts, which show you the age of the universe.
But the universe isn't necessarily the sum of reality. Or it is now, but it's not always been the sum of reality.
It's the sum of our known reality.
Yeah.
That does not necessarily mean that our unknown cannot be factored into it.
The thing is, that's why I wanted to read the poem, because I get my points across. I explain what I think about the issue. You understand? Because the debate, I know how it's gonna go. I have debated with atheists millions of times. You go nowhere. Because there is always a but, there is always a if. So basically, that's my plan. My plan was just I read my statement. I read what I think about if the universe can be or cannot be eternal, and for the audience, if they want to understand, they understand.
That's preaching. We asked at the beginning and the top of the show, please don't preach. Reading a poem and expecting other people to just accept is a form of preaching. Please don't come onto the show and preach.
Yeah, and the thing is, you said you discovered discovered proof of God. You've not presented that proof of God. You've had a conversation with us where we largely seem to agree on things.
We don't disagree with you on most things that you're bringing up.
None of that we agree with leads us anywhere near to a God. Never mind a specific one. Yeah. So have you got a further part of the argument which will take us to God?
Okay, I'm going to explain why the universe cannot be eternal, okay?
Okay, we don't need to... Look, Miguel, we don't need to explain why the universe is not eternal, because with both, for the sake of this argument, agreed with you that the universe is eternal or might be eternal. What we're asking you now is how that relates to God, because you said, it was proof of God.
It's this discovery we're waiting to hear. Please tell us your discovery.
Look, I need to talk. I cannot talk. I'm not explaining myself. It's like in the last call. It's all the time. I need to explain myself. I need.
Well, we're trying to let you explain yourself. But we're asking you a specific question. When you're just going to move on to something we already acknowledge, we agree with, then there's no point letting you talk because it's not going to further the conversation. How does this relate to God? Let's get there. We agree that the universe is eternal for the sake of this argument.
No.
Now let's take the next step.
To you, what I am saying to you is precisely the opposite. The universe cannot be eternal. It's impossible. You understand?
Why is it impossible? Right, that's a claim that you've not made so far. So why are you making the claim that the universe cannot be eternal? Which, by the way, you started off by saying reality and now saying the universe, which I have already stated might be different things.
Listen. I say, this is very simple, okay? I say reality is eternal, and I say the universe, it's impossible to be eternal. Two simple statements.
Yeah, we agree. We agree with you. How does that get us to God? We're not disagreeing.
Because God is the creator of the universe. And
so where is that coming into this argument? How are you arguing for that? What are you giving as evidence for that? What are you giving as an argument for that?
I am giving you a logical argument. The universe cannot be eternal. Therefore, what created the universe is eternal. That's what we call God.
No, that's what you call God. That could easily be the singularity from which the universe expanded. Right. You're calling it God. I'm calling it the singularity. How do we make the differentiation? What can you present us with which will convince us that it wasn't the singularity from which the universe came, but it was God that caused it to spring into existence?
Okay, this is listen, please, listen. Okay, what I'm saying is reality is eternal. This is a logic.
Yes, we've done that little bit. We've already done that bit. Let's stop doing that bit and let's give an argument as to why it has to be God.
Because God, by definition, is the creator of the universe. And if the universe cannot be eternal, therefore...
That's a circular argument, sir. That's not logical. That is circular. So let's go. So I am stating, let's make this really simple. Listen. Let's make this really simple. I am stating that what the universe came from was the singularity. You are stating that it is God. How are you demonstrating that it is God?
Because God, by definition, God is what created the universe. You understand?
No. I'm stating that by definition, what created the universe was the singularity. We know that the universe came from singularity. So what you now have to do is show that both it didn't come from the singularity, which is what we know actually happened, and that instead of the singularity, God brought it into existence. That's what you have to do if you're now making a logical argument.
But when you call the singularity, what you are saying is more. The universe was created by more universe because there is no intelligence.
No. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that the universe was created by more universe. It may be that that's the case, but that's not what my argument is. My argument is, as the science shows, all that we know at the moment is that the universe came from the singularity. That's where it expanded from. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. That it came from the singularity. You're saying, no, it came from God. Why are you first dismissing the singularity and secondly imposing God there instead?
All right, because the singularity has a beginning of existence. The singularity, the singularity the scientific people are talking about has a beginning of existence. That singularity is not.
No. We don't know that. There are many hypotheses around this in physics, but there is no scientific theory, accepted theory, that says that the singularity had a beginning of existence. We don't know that. For all we know, for using philosophical language, for all we know, the singularity could be a necessary being. We know that the universe came from the singularity. We do not know that there is a God. So why are you dismissing the singularity, which we have knowledge of, and asserting God in its place?
Because when atheists refer to a singularity, the multiverse, the Big Bang, or anything else,
they are all different things, sir, that you've just referred to. So let's stick with the one thing we're actually talking about, which is the singularity. Do you have an understanding of what the singularity is?
Yes, I know what it means. Basically, what atheists say, the universe was created.
This has nothing to do with atheists. Do you have an understanding of what the singularity is?
Yes, it's something that created the universe, but without intelligence. Am I right?
So what? Yeah, but do you have an understanding of what it is, other than something? And I actually object to the word "created" because that implies an intelligence, something putting something into motion via.
Please listen.
Will.
Listen to me, please. The point is that what you are saying is that something caused the universe, but that thing was caused by something else. You know,
No. That is not what I am saying. I have said this many times during this conversation that is not what I am saying. And this is exactly why, after your call last time, in your many comments in the comment section, I repeated to you that you were straw manning the hosts. And you're doing it again now. That is not what I am saying. I am not saying that it comes from something else. That's not what we understand the singularity to be. Do you understand what a singularity is?
Yes. The singularity for you is eternal or is not eternal?
Not for me. Do you understand what a singularity is?
Yes, I understand what a singularity is.
Explain to me and give me a steelman argument of what a simple 1-2 line sentence of what a singularity is in physics.
A singularity is something without intelligence that caused the universe. Am I right?
No, you are not right. A singularity is something that is a state of infinite density and temperature. It's where all the physics that we do know break down. That's why we can't see any further than it, because we don't have the mathematics to work there. So that's what a singularity is. Nobody is suggesting at all. Nobody is suggesting at all that the singularity was created by something else.
If it's not eternal, it was created by something else. It's as simple as that. If the singular
odd assertion,
eternal.
That's a very
odd
assertion.
How do you know it's not eternal?
It's a very odd assertion.
Yeah. How do you know it's not eternal?
Because it was caused.
No, it wasn't. We have no evidence that the singularity was caused whatsoever. We do not have any evidence for that whatsoever. Why are you asserting that it is caused?
Because it has no intelligence.
Intelligence, something not having intelligence does not need a prerequisite that it was caused.
Coronavirus has no intelligence.
Well, of course, if it has no intelligence, it was caused. It was caused from something else.
No.
Right. The bottom line.
Okay.
I'm getting very confused by your reasoning,
I'm
Miguel.
going to give you one more chance, Miguel, to kind of state why this has to be God. And without strawmanning us and saying we think that the singularity was caused, which isn't the case, can you state why it wasn't the singularity that brought the universe into existence and it was God?
What I'm saying is, what has a beginning of existence was created by what is eternal. Logically, what has a beginning of existence.
No, not logically. No, not logically. And on that note, I'm going to let you go because I'm sorry if you had anything.
I'm very confused. I am very confused.
Yeah, it was, and I just want to point out as well to the person called Reasonable Faith in the chat. Give us a call. Don't talk shit in the chat because that's exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the show. If you've got a problem, call in and present an argument. Phoebe. Have you anything to add to that call?
I think that's the quietest you've ever seen me. I think that's the quietest you've ever seen me. It was just like, Richard's got this. Richard's got this one.
Things like this really frustrate me because, I love philosophy. I really, really do. And on every occasion when you have these conversations, this kind of special pleading is done that what is a necessary being has to be God, and that is what the universe has to have been brought into existence by that. None of those kind of a priori thinking, they're not a priori arguments, not self-evident. And it really frustrates me with that. And I'm really into kind of I'm not a professional cosmologist. I'm a complete layman, but I really enjoy reading about cosmology and things like that. And I hear these calls and I hear these apologists trying to make these arguments, and they get the information wrong all the time, even from my basic understanding of it. And they all kind of need to, they jump onto vague, like, kind of scientific weekly headlines that give sensationalist headlines to think and completely miss the point of the actual things that are being discussed. And I find it really frustrating.
I feel like today's calls I've had to, channel my inner other host. I felt like I've had to channel my inner Shannon Q with some brain stuff, my inner Forrest with some brain stuff, my inner Katie Montgomery with some dickheads, and my inner Dr. Ben with, the biology stuff. I feel like I've had to channel a lot of other hosts here today.
Yeah, we have. We are not without more callers. I think all the super chats have been read. So without further ado, let's pick up another call. This is Buddy from Michigan, who says his friend started doubting faith and he wants tips on how to talk to them. Buddy, hello. Do you want to kind of give us that in your own words?
Hello, buddy.
Hello, Richard. Hello, Phoebe. I am so sorry that you guys had to deal with some nonsense from a couple of problematic callers. That's ridiculous, especially because at least one of them was, scary.
Yeah, there is that.
A friend of mine recently told me that she has been struggling for a long time and has started, her specific words were, it's been difficult for me in my situation. I said, I understand because, stuff is how it is these days. I know that she'll find some employment soon. She's mostly having monetary issues. She says she hopes so. I'm getting all tired of this. I don't know my faith anymore. I asked, what do you mean? She says, I mean, I'm hopeless. And I said, no, you aren't. Don't say mean things about my friend like that.
That's like being a Michigander and not knowing where to point on your hand to say where you come from.
I'm sorry?
I said, that's like being a Michigander and not knowing where on your hand to point to say where you've come from.
Yeah, but it's weird because I know where I come from.
I know. It's an odd thing. So how long has your friend been experiencing what they have brought to you?
I've only known them for a few months since the beginning of the year. But at the very least, they're at this point a good friend of mine now, and I want to do everything I can to support them. But they kind of dodged the question of what do you mean when I asked, what do you mean about you're questioning your faith? And she was just like, well, I feel like I'm hopeless. And I was like, well, don't say that about yourself. And I have already told her that I'm atheist, and she was like, oh, okay. And we just tabled that. But I'm just curious how I should approach such a situation, because I don't want to bait them into, deconstruction or anything like that. That's not fair to anybody.
Are you comfortable saying what flavor of religion
aware
they're coming away from?
Sorry?
Are you comfortable saying which flavor of religion they're coming away from? Please don't reveal any information that may identify this person, but are you comfortable saying which flavor of religion they're coming from?
I know it's Christian. I don't know which denomination. I'm assuming Catholic because you can only get better from there.
Are you aware of the theory of street epistemology?
No, I am not, Phoebe.
So my understanding of it is you start to ask the base questions. Why? And you start to break down the individual things. Richard, jump in if I'm getting the definitions of street epistemology incorrect here, because I always get it slightly mixed up in my head. But it's about making sure that you break down the understandings. And
hard as hell.
And I would always approach them as a friend. And I would just try to be a friend to them. I don't know what you have to say, Richard.
Yeah, I think it's important to make them feel comfortable, and you have your friends. So your friends doubting faith, they know that you're an atheist. How often do you interact with them, and in what kind of circumstances do you interact with them?
Pretty much daily on Facebook chat.
Right. So, and what conversations roughly? You don't have to go into personal lives, but roughly, kind of what conversations do you have? Do you have kind of philosophical conversations? Do you talk about things like that, or is it all kind of what computer game I played last week?
Sometimes she brings up church, sometimes she doesn't. She thanks God every now and then. It's generally just friendly chat. I'm silly, you're silly. I'm glad we're friends. So,
yeah.
How's your dog doing? How's your cat doing? All that.
Yeah. I think in this situation, what I'd tend to do is I very rarely interact with my religious friends on Facebook in a kind of this, why do you believe what you believe kind of way. I have a lot of religious friends, and I have had a lot of religious friends over the years. I've stayed at Buddhist monasteries. I've been to Eid meals at mosques. I've been invited to church services because this is what I do. I'll talk to religious people all the time, but I talk to them in a lot of the case on a kind of the level of, let's explore this thing together, let's do this religious work together, and through university, because that's what we do at university and things like that. We talk about it, we work together on projects and things. So that's kind of, I wouldn't go into those situations talking to those people and suddenly start asking them why they believe what they do. However, if I had a friend who was bringing it to the table, let's say, and there was a recent example of this, of one of these people who is doing the same university course as I have, who is a Christian, and we had Sorry, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the literal words that she typed were. Sorry, I gotta scroll up because it's the chat window. Where is it?
Yeah. So, if somebody brings it to the table, then I would see that as an opening to have that conversation with them. I think in a way that, when somebody says something like that, when they bring it to the table, they're inviting you to have that conversation with them. So,
and then
that is
when I asked, what do you mean? She kind of dodged the question and just replied with, I'm hopeless. And I said, don't say something like that. She said, what do you mean? Well, you're strong, you're determined, you're not going to give up. I know you're not.
Yeah, there's a couple of organizations that you can kind of reference your friend to. One is Recovering from Religion, and the other is Freedom from Religion Foundation. And they're both really, really good organizations for kind of that your friend can get in touch with and have these conversations with, or even you can call these organizations for kind of advice on how to talk to your friend. Also, we have one of our hosts, Objectively Dan, is yeah, Dan is someone. When Phoebe was talking about street epistemology, Dan came out of religion, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. This is well publicized. Dan came or started doubting because he was stopped in the street by a guy called Anthony Magnabosco, who is a street epistemologist, and he asked Dan what he believed and why he believed it, and started this chain of events. And this has eventually led Dan out of religion. So it might be worth calling back when Dan's hosting to kind of get his view on this, because he would really be able to kind of talk you through this a lot better than I can, who's never been religious myself, and I've never come out of religion.
I will keep an eye out. I will keep an eye out for Objectively Dan, and I mean, maybe he'll show up in the after show Discord or something like that, and I can ask him there, and not even the phone line. Like, that would be super cool.
I mean, feel free to call the show when it's on. I'm sure we'd love to take your call. But in the meantime, yeah, take. I think they've put it in the chat. If you've got access to the chat, they've put the links for Recovering from Religion in there. So if you want to kind of have a look at that, even for yourself. In the meantime, buddy, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate your call. Give Dan a call back. Really do give Dan a call back and have this conversation with him. I think that's the better place to do it. Phoebe, do you want to take another one? Have you got time to take another call?
Yes, I've got time for one more call, I think. Okay, one more call.
We will take Adam from Tennessee, who thinks most theists take the Bible more literal when it is likely more mythological. And what do the hosts think about that? Hello, buddy. It's not buddy, is it? Who we're talking to? It is Adam. Apologies, Adam. Talk us through it. Talk us through what you're asking.
Yeah, so I just kind of have a question. So when you look at Christian symbolism and you look at churches, you'll see a Zodiac cross on top. It depends on what denomination. Each of them have different stuff, like Pentecostal show the fire. And if you look at older cultures like Egypt and Sumerian, Greeks, Persia, they all have myths, and they're all similar to each other, but just told differently and portrayed a little different. But still, if you look at medieval art going back and you look at biblical symbology, you can kind of pinpoint the players that you're looking at and kind of correlate them with the constellations in the sky and what they're doing with the star that it's named after and what it represents. And then if you look at the story of Jesus's life from birth to ascension, you can pretty much trace it out on the ecliptic that the sun takes. And the numbers in the Bible, too, that they reference are kind of more hermetic. And the Bible, to me, is kind of just telling you stories about choices and stuff like that. But it's, you know, it says in the Bible in the prayer, on earth as it is in heaven. So I just kind of want your thoughts on that. I mean, we can look at Revelations, and Revelations means to reveal. And if you take just Revelations 12:9, it says the great dragon was thrown out. The ancient serpent, also known as the devil, Satan, the adversary, the deceiver of the whole world, he was hurled down to the earth, and his angels were hurled down with him. I think what they're saying is he's just going down to the horizon and leaving the season that we're in. And what follows is the other constellations. And then also, if you look at Egypt, the wisdom keepers, there was a riddle back then with the Sphinx, and Sphinx in Greek means fingo, or singo, means to bind. And if you look at the Zodiac, which is called the Mazzaroth in the Bible, it's kind of telling you the prophecies of the Bible in order from Virgo to Leo. And the first prophecy starting with Genesis 3:15, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Well, if you look at the constellations of Boötes and the Virgo, and where Hercules and all these, they've got, the constellations bruising the serpent's head and the seed. If you look at the Virgo, she's holding a branch and wheat stalk in her hand. But there's, so the branch, I guess I could say, I guess we can go to Isaiah 4. In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely, for that their escape of Israel. Well, the fruit, when we're talking about Virgo, it would have to be the fruit off of the tree, because if you look at the constellations, you got Hydra the snake, Virgo, and Boötes, which Boötes would be Adam, Virgo would be Eve, and Hydra would be the snake that turned into the snake. If you look at the pole star.
Okay, so let me just stop you there. I'm going to kind of throw it over to Phoebe because she looks like she's got something to say, but I'll let Phoebe start and then I'll kind of jump in a little later on.
So, are you saying that when you say that most theists take the Bible more literally, are you saying that with the examples you have just given, that there is a literal belief that what is written there is believed by some who follow the theistic teachings of the Bible, that these individual things could occur today? Is that one of the things that you're trying to say here? I'm just trying to get the point you're coming from here, because I understand that from my experience, a lot of very deeply religious people say a lot of things about the Bible. But if you were to then challenge them, okay, when did you see the burning bush? When did you see a man walk through the desert for 40 days? When did you see the Immaculate Conception today? They can't actually point to them, and they just go, oh, no, it only happened then. Are you saying that some of these people believe that today could happen as well?
Well, I think they are just kind of confused about, I think we all could be confused. I think we could all be wrong. All I'm saying is we need to look at, kind of do our homework and really look at these things before we put our beliefs in them, and really judge them by education and not feelings, because a lot of Christianity is done off of feelings. This feels good. It's comfort. It gives them feelings. And I'm just saying we need a more...
Do you think that having that comfort and feel good is a bad thing in general?
No, I don't, because I think the Bible is teaching us choices between a way we could go that's more pleasing to everybody here on earth, or we could go the bad way that's just more selfish and deceitful. But there are certain elements of the Christian Bible, such as the King James translation and the other international versions, that do have some things that some people would find very comforting, but they're absolutely grotesque. Like, how much could the first daughter be sold for example? Correct. The Bible is absolutely gross. I do not take any moral, and I don't think anyone should. If you're going to take Exodus 21 as morality kind of goes off the table in my book. But as far as the prophecies, though, Uranus in Greek was the kingdom of heaven. So when Jesus was saying the Uranus, I can't get the verse. I don't really want to quote it right now. I don't have it in front of me. But he's just saying the kingdom of heaven. When you go into the age of Aquarius, Uranus is the planet of Aquarius. And I think he's just saying when you, the kingdom of that will happen. Like, we're just going from one age to another. He's just talking about different ages, and there's, you know, other stuff in the Bible like Psalm 61, but God shall shoot with his arrow.
I think there's two ways that I'd like to kind of come at this from. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I think on one hand, you seem to be kind of doing the opposite of what the Christians who you've called in about are doing, and that's rather than taking it literally, you're kind of putting in your own interpretation into what's written in there, which may or may not be correct. But I think the more important point, rather than kind of this interpretation you're kind of giving us about these zodiac signs and things, is that the Bible is lots of different books. I was going to say it's a big book, but it's a collection. It's a big book, which is a collection of lots of different books. And
it's a what do they call it? It's a bound version.
Yeah, and it's been written over a long period of time by many different people, and it has taken on different meanings and different interpretations over that time, even within groups that proclaim to kind of be the same groups. Let's take Protestants, for example, who are a group of Orthodox Christians who believe that the Bible is true. And if you ask any number of Protestants, they might have different interpretations of what different verses mean. So it's very difficult to say that it's difficult to say from the outset that theists take the Bible literally, because they don't all take it literally, and it depends which part of the Bible they're looking at and you're talking about. But it's also very difficult to say that there is a correct interpretation of it. I've been studying religious texts seriously for probably about 15 years, not just Christian ones, lots of different texts, Buddhist ones, Islam, and you get this thing in all of them where you can kind of there is an art yardstick, and even if there is a yardstick presented, you can trace where that yardstick comes from, but there isn't a yardstick implicit that tells you how you must interpret a religious text. There are different ways to read religious texts, and they are all legitimate. And there are arguments within all of those readings as to how you do that. So you might have people who argue from a history point of view about the Bible. You might have people who are religious believers who read it from a believing point of view. You might have people who read it from the point of view of textual criticism. And within all these different areas, people will disagree on exactly what the meaning is. This is why we have huge kind of swathes of scholarship about it. I have the misfortune.
It sounds a lot like my line of work being in the legal field, because you can have the same text written and you can have 50 different people in the legal world all interpret it completely differently.
Yeah.
But the difference between the legal world and the religious world is there is no centralized authority that you can go to say, please tell us what this means.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that this is where the problem kind of arises, in that we don't have this yardstick. And we have all these different ways to read it. They're all legitimate ways to read it. And yes, I include religious belief is a legitimate way to read a religious text. It might not necessarily give you the correct history, but
it may not be grounded in science. It may not be grounded in logic, but it is still a legitimate scholarship on that passing of the library that is the religious text that you are ingesting.
Yeah, and there's not only different ways to read it. There's a whole fields of study dedicated to how it was put together, and the
What was
theology
and
behind
which
it.
books were included, which books were excluded, which books were amalgamated, which books were pared down, what the actual translation into different languages is. So there are different languages where if you translate between the languages, you can't translate it as written. So there's a Cornish language version of the Bible and there's a English language version of the Bible. And if you then translate the Cornish language version into another language and then back into English, the meaning will change because the differences in the languages themselves that will cause the words that are untranslatable or ambiguously translatable to be changed. It reminds me of the beginning of the film Snatch. If anyone's seen the beginning of the film Snatch, they have a really good bit on the interpretation of the Bible. And I would advise people just to ingest that beginning bit of that movie because it talks about the interpretation of the word virgin and young woman from Greek. And that is a really good piece of biblical scholarship.
Yes, and I think I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to give you a chance to respond in just a second, Adam. But I think the short answer to your question is that theists don't always take the Bible literally. It depends who they are and how they interpret it. There is no yardstick to take it literally from, and it is partly mythological. It is lots of different aspects to it and lots of different legitimate ways to read it. It takes a lifetime of scholarship to even become even familiar with a lot of these ways. And trust me, I have my head, and I am not lying when I say this. I have my head stuck in religious journals on a daily basis and have done for at least the last 10, 15 years. And I'm still only scratching the surface of some of this stuff. So it's yes, you're right in a very, very, very broad sense, but I would encourage you to kind of look at it more in depth before kind of making blanket statements and painting people with broad brushes. We are near the end of the show. I'm going to let you respond, and then I will let you go. Adam.
Okay, yeah, no, I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on it because, like I said, y'all do more study than I do. I just wanted to catch y'all while I seen y'all on, and I appreciate the feedback. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Adam. We really, really do appreciate it, and feel free to call back. And we are coming towards. Sorry, Phoebe. We are coming towards the end of the show. We have run very, very over and had some very, very interesting calls.
It's because it's me, you see. It's me. I'm just wonderful, you see.
Phoebe, I'm going to let people into a little bit of a background thing here. The viewers into a little bit of a background thing here. When Phoebe was asked onto the show, I asked her, as is my want as producer of the show, which of the hosts she wanted to work with, and she said you. And that was both a blessing and a curse. Let me tell you. Mind blowing. I love Phoebe. We go back a long way, and we're really good friends and have some great fun together. Please show Phoebe all the love in the chat and in the comment section. Don't forget that the prompt for this week is complete the sentence. It was fucked up when God blank.
Put me on every ACA show.
Tune in to the comments. I'm fucking giving up. Tune in the beginning of next.
I've been on the lot now, so it was fucked up. God must have put me on them all. God must have put me on secular sexuality, Truth Wanted, the non-profits, the atheist experience, and finally Talk Heathen.
Finally Talk Heathen, and tune in at the beginning of next week's episode to hear the top 3 answers. Phoebe, would you like to do some love rings? Let's send some love rings out.
Love rings.
Get those magical love rings going. crew.
Oh, there we are.
we're
For
having
those of you who don't know,
there.
the origins of the Love Rings are from the days of public access television, when the show was running out of time on public access television, when it was previously broadcast as the 80s experience on local Austin public access television, and they used to play the Love Rings to show that the show was coming towards an end.
We are going, myself and Phoebe are going to be in the Discord with the wonderful Kelly Laughlin. If you want to ask us more questions, if you want to talk to us a little bit more, please do jump into the Discord and have a conversation with us. For all the gobshites who've been in the chat telling us that God exists and not having the balls to phone in.
They're not gobshites, they're godshites.
Yeah, get all the godshites. Call in next week, because preaching in the chat doesn't convince anybody. It really, really doesn't. And I've seen you there and you've not called in. Please call in. If you don't believe, this is your community. And we do really appreciate you being here. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. If you do believe, we don't hate you. We're just not convinced. We'll see you next time.
We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live, Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.